Hey there, Midas Letters subscribers, traders, investors, and viewers. My guest right now is Tal Hayek. He's the co-founder and CEO of AcuityAds Holdings Inc. Trades on NASDAQ under the symbol ATY and on the TSX under the symbol AT. Tal, how are you doing today?
It's amazing. Thank you for having me.
You know, this is a serendipitous reacquaintance because we first conversed back in 2014 when your company's shares were trading at 1/10 of what they are today. And so obviously you've had a great success. What is it that has driven this company's growth over the last 10 years?
Well, I think the main thing is that we developed an AI engine that its main job is to deliver positive return on investor for advertisers. And especially nowadays, advertisers are way more picky about where they're going to place their ad dollars and investments. And they do that where they can measure the ROI and they can get a positive ROI. And there's a company like Acuity that delivers all that in real time. Then clearly there's going to be more and more people that are interested in doing it that way.
Yeah, you bet. So I have to disclose that we are a customer of Acuity, and I became a customer of Acuity because the explanation of the Illumin system was so intriguing to me that I thought, okay, we have to try this. Now, how is this Illumin AI engine superior to existing programmatic advertising platforms?
I'm glad you asked that question, and thank you for being a customer. I would say it's like that. The Illumin is what we call advertising automation, and the biggest problem that it solves is that there's a huge disconnect between the way marketers think and plan and the way that programmatic gets executed. Marketers think in stages, usually in three stages, anything from awareness stage to the engagement stage and to the conversion stage. And it's very important for them to send different messages along the way. But what happens in real time, the black boxes out there just repeat the same messages over and over and over and over again in order to satisfy some kind of a measuring tool. So Illumin came along and now gives the ability and the control for the advertiser and the marketers to create a consumer journey, to plan it, and then to execute it, everything from one system. And you do all that with a very, very intuitive system that's very easy to use. You don't need an expert to use it, and it takes you minutes to set up a campaign. And that's the big problem we're solving there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's certainly been our experience as well, is that your team has just sort of taken everything off of our plate and got us up and running as of, I think, the end of this week. All we had to do was sort of provide the creative, and the feedback from your team in terms of advising us on what's going to be more effective versus what's not based on their experience has been extremely helpful. So I understand that that's how you end up generating $27.5 million in revenue in first quarter financials. And now you've raised $57 million in your IPO round for NASDAQ. What is the purpose of that fundraise? What will you do with the proceeds?
Look, at the end of the day, our focus has been Illumin and is going to continue to stay Illumin, Illumin, Illumin. Now, we're doing most of it in an organic way, but there's components of Illumin that are in the roadmap that we can build or buy. And there's some things that are not programmatic on it. And when it's not programmatic, we're not experts. So it would be very nice to expedite and bring some experts from the other components that we want to bring in and complete Illumin faster.
Sure. Interesting. So then the Illumin system is it's not just a single proprietary platform, though you have a proprietary AI engine that's part of it. You have other components that help sort of identify appropriate responses from the audience and how to respond to those with varied ad presentation. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, so from a consumer point of view, every time, so let's say I'll give you an example. Let's say you go into a website, let's say you go to CNN.com and you see the content of the page load and you see the ad load and it looks like it's all loading at the same time, but that's not what's actually happening. What's actually happening, the content loads first and then CNN sends a bid request to an ad exchange asking for two things, a creative and a price. It goes into our system and we look at your consumer profile. What do we know about you? Geographical location, what you're interested in, demographic information. Then we go to a database of hundreds of advertisers. We pick, for example, a BMW ad, send it back to the exchange and say $5. If we're the highest bidder, we get to show you that ad. And the whole process I described now takes 50 milliseconds. So that's why to the consumer, it looks like it's all happening at the same time. But obviously, it's done by algorithms that their job is to deliver that positive ROI that we talked about before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in terms of the landscape of ad service platforms that have such a highly sophisticated sort of AI engine behind it, who are your biggest competitors?
Well, I think it's all the usual suspects that have been on the DSP side in the past. There's quite a few US companies, most, but I think what's important to note is once we launched Illumin last year, we have a clear differentiator out there, and the excitement that we're seeing because of Illumin is through the roof. I mean, we launched it in Q4 of last year. We didn't even expect to have revenue until the second half of this year, and we already had 1.5 million running on it in Q4, 3.2 million running in Q1, Q2 looking amazing as well. So the adoption of Illumin by mostly the larger brands happening much faster than we expected, and we expected ourselves. So we're very happy about what's happening.
Sure. So is that the outcome of the Illumin launch? Is that you're dealing with a bigger and bigger sort of book of brands?
We are dealing with more brands, bigger brands, having more, I would say, more like the types of conversations we're having with them are different than having a little bit of their budget. Right now, we're talking to them about the consumer journey, about bringing in the awareness side of the campaign, about the engagement side, and about the conversion side of the campaign, and really bringing the consumer through a journey in order to get them to convert.
Right. So then if you were to sort of tell a marketer how to best use Illumin, and this is kind of a selfish sort of question on my part, what would you say to a marketer about, reshaping their expectations and their approach to maximize Illumin's abilities?
I would tell them, like, plan the consumer journey. It is so important today to, first of all, make your consumers aware of what you have to offer. That's the first stage. And then the second stage is you really need to educate them. So that's the engagement stage. Get them engaged. And once you do all that, this is the time now to try to get them to convert. And it's so important to think like that and set up your different creatives with the appropriate messages, depending on where your consumer is on the consumer journey.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So then the Illumin system provides feedback to the customer, i.e. in this case, myself, and gives me sort of metrics that I can say, oh, okay, this is where my target is in their journey. It's time to present conversion creative.
Exactly. You know exactly. So you set up the consumer journey in advance, and then you watch the consumers go through the journey that you set up. And not all of them go through the same journey because it's a trigger-based system. So if somebody clicks on something along the way that you set it up, you would serve them something completely different. Depending on where the consumer is and what they're doing, you have a one-to-one conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, to what extent does the Illumin system mesh with Google Ads? I found that Google Ads are extremely problematic to use. The performance of them is not something that is easily verified with the analytics they provide, and so the ROI is always a nebulous target. You never really know what's working until you get the response in the conversion. So you waste a lot of money trying to find the audience. Does Illumin use Google at all, or does it stay right outside of the Google ad network?
Yeah, we're completely outside. So Illumin takes care of the open internet. So what is the open internet? Anything but the what we call the walled gardens. It's mainly YouTube, Facebook is the two main ones that are in the walled gardens, and then we have the rest of the internet, and this is when Illumin comes in.
Well, that's great. Do you have guidance at all out for analysts on the future performance of the company at this point?
No, we don't provide guidance. We provided that we're seeing a 50% growth into Q2 of this year. Overall revenue, we said that the Illumin adoption is going extremely well. So we said a few things, but we don't really provide full guidance at this point.
Sure. So your adjusted EBITDA was up 151% year over year. Is that rate of growth something that investors can expect to continue into 2022?
Well, all I can tell you is we always do our best to improve the financial results of the company. We have a great track record in that, and I do believe the best is yet to come.
Yeah. Tal, your judicious choice of words when responding to a question like that makes me feel better, both as a customer and an investor. So we're going to leave it there for now. Congratulations on your success. We're going to look forward to having you back on the show in a couple of months and see where we're at.
Sounds amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time, Tal. Bye for now.